My name's Andrea Sheardown. I'm 49. I'm married. I live in Sandbach in Cheshire with my 3 children, now aged 19, 18 and 9. The first signs of knowing something was wrong was following our summer break in Anglesey in August 2015. I'd been experiencing intermittent pains in my rib cage, and these increased in frequency and intensity. So I sought medical advice, and I was told it was just probably indigestion or muscle strain, and kept being sent away. Following numerous trips to the doctors and A&E, I eventually was taken seriously by an out-of-hours locum. They thought I might have gallstones from the immense pains I'd been describing. So on the 17th of October, I was admitted to hospital for further tests. I then spent a week in hospital having numerous blood tests and scans. I knew at this stage something was seriously wrong, but I still hadn't been told what. The experience of being diagnosed was a very traumatic time for me. After a week of invasive tests and still not being told what was wrong, I had a bedside visit from a nurse. She dropped a file in front of me and scattered a pile of Macmillan cancer cards on the floor. It was that moment that I knew it was cancer, but unfortunately the specialist nurse had not realised I'd not yet been told by the doctors. So at that stage, I think she was more in shock than me, and she burst into tears and left me. I was only 44, a non-smoker, occasional drinker, vegetarian, and always been physically active. So it was surreal to then be told I'd got cancer and that nothing could be done. We were just in shock. It didn't feel real. Being told to put my life in order and say my goodbyes. So at this stage, I discharged myself from the hospital to spend our half term together with my family and try and process what I'd just been told. I remember the heart-wrenching thoughts of me not being able to see my young family grow up and witness their life milestones. Being told that you just have weeks to live was soul destroying, and it didn't seem possible. I literally was sent home to die. However, myself and my husband decided we couldn't take the diagnosis at face value, and we fought with all our might to get a second opinion. Thankfully, we managed to achieve this from the liver surgeon specialists at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. They gave me the opportunity for life-saving surgery, so it took me from one extreme of emotions to the other. Although it was clearly pointed out to me that I might not survive the operation, or it might not even work, it was very much the needed ray of hope in what had overnight become a very dark world. I remember the surgeon at the time, after he'd explained the procedure I'd be undergoing, questioning why I had a big smile on my face, and I simply explained he'd single-handedly restored hope into our world, so why wouldn't I be happy? So 3 weeks later, on 18th of November, I underwent life-saving surgery to remove a tumour the size of a pineapple from my liver. To a patient that's just been diagnosed with this cancer, I would say, you know your own body, that in those early days, time is of the essence. So don't be afraid to challenge the information you are given and seek a second or third opinion if you're not happy with your treatment options. Get in touch with the AMMF charity straight away, as they have a resource of information and specialists that might be able to help. To the healthcare professional, I would say, please listen to your patient, understand that they know their own body and take seriously these signs and symptoms they're describing, and seek to refer them to a specialist centre straight away. At this stage, all I should have had to worry about was preparing to fight for my life. Instead, I had to fight to even be heard. The impact of having to fight to be heard and confront the numerous medical professionals to make this happen was really scary and traumatic. The diagnosis had a huge impact on my family. My husband is an airline pilot, and he spends large periods of times away. So the day-to-day running of our family life falls onto my shoulders. Our children at the time were only 4, 13 and 15 when I was initially diagnosed. Our youngest was too young to understand what was happening, but my older 2 children knew something was seriously wrong. To be told that they might lose their mum and in a very quick space of time was devastating for them. In particular, our daughter found it all too much to cope with. She ended up in a very dark place and needed outside support. It was hard enough dealing with the diagnosis myself, but to be told to have to explain to my children and husband that they were going through this traumatic ordeal was a weight very heavy to bear. It was whilst I was in hospital we had our first contact with the AMMF. With no specific treatment pathway for us, it was literally left to us to find options following the surgery. So whilst I was in hospital, my dad, who is like the oracle in our household, he would be frantically trawling the internet in trying to find out more information about the cancer. He stumbled across the AMMF and he managed to have a telephone conversation directly with the charity's CEO, Helen Mormont. We will be forever indebted to that conversation, as it was from there we were able to be referred to the amazing oncologist, Professor Valley, at the Christie Hospital in Manchester, and I'm still under his care today. Surviving the surgery and then the grueling chemotherapy was a challenge in itself, but I knew early on in my journey that I wanted to start fundraising, mainly due to how traumatic the start of my own journey had been, with the lack of clear information and no specific treatment pathway, and that this needed to be changed to help others. The only way this would be possible was from helping to spread the awareness of this neglected and underfunded cancer, and also help raise much needed funds for the AMF charity. I also felt like I'd been given a second chance at life, and I wanted to set an example to my family and friends and embark on giving back. I'd often likened my cancer journey to the ups and downs of climbing a mountain. So following my chemotherapy, it seemed apt to try the real thing. Anyone that knows me knew that this would be a massive challenge, as I've also got a huge fear of heights. But in November 2016, 3 months after finishing the chemotherapy, with my family in tow, I climbed Mount Snowdon, followed quickly by Scafell Pike and Ben Nevis, completing the 3 peaks. Completing these challenges was amazing, so I wanted to do more. With the help of family and friends, I embarked on some more challenges and organised numerous local fundraising events, including supermarket backpacks, charity luncheons, numerous raffles, a charities ladies' night, whereby we roped in the help of some local dads, including my poor husband, and convinced them to do the full Monty, all in the name of charity. We also organised a fire walking event, which saw the local community come together and walk the hot coals in the name of Cholangiocarcinoma. I set myself some more significant challenges too. In February 2018, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, the world's largest freestanding mountain. A year later, in February 2019, I cycled 500 kilometres across Vietnam and Cambodia. And then more recently, in February 2020, I completed Everest Base Camp with my husband, son and sister, and some other friends now nicknamed as Andrea's AMF Army. These challenges frequently bring me out of my comfort zone, but they also play a huge part in keeping my mind focused from the constant thoughts of my cancer coming back. There is no greater feeling than standing on the top of those mountains. Since starting my fundraising efforts in November 2016, I've raised around £75,000. But more importantly, as well as raising the funds, we have raised the awareness of this cancer across my local area, the whole country, and even across the globe, from talks in local schools, appearing in both local, national and international newspapers. Even whilst we were on our Everest trek, my story got featured in the mainstream newspapers in Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Spain, and even Italy. I've been involved in radio interviews, both locally and nationally, and I've appeared on the TV news program BBC Northwest, and also part of a documentary for BBC One called One Day That Changed My Life. That programme was featured in June 2019 on primetime TV. Obviously, COVID has had a devastating impact on all charities, but some of the smaller charities like the AMMF have been impacted even more, although it's been incredibly challenging with the restrictions in place to carry out fundraising. I have recently managed to complete a virtual run to the top of Everest. This involved me running 10 kilometres every day for 7 days. I set off on World Cholangiocarcinoma Day, the 12th of February, and had to run in some of our coldest weather so far over the winter, but at least it made me feel like I was on Everest. I managed to complete the 70k in the 7 days and raised just over £1,000 over the week. I will also be embarking on my next big challenge next February, whereby I'll be cycling nearly 1,000 kilometres in 9 days across Thailand with my 19-year-old daughter and some other friends, including a fellow cholangiocarcinoma patient too. Thailand has some of the worst cases of cholangiocarcinoma across the globe, so this trip will have even more of a special meaning to me. Cholangiocarcinoma has had a huge impact on my family over the past few years. We have all grown as a family. They have seen how much the fundraising for the AMF means to me and the positive mental impact this is having on my life. From the outset, they have all wanted to play a huge part in this. My son Sam, at the age of just 14, joined me on my Kilimanjaro trip. And although he suffered badly with altitude sickness, it didn't put him off, and he came with me to Everest Base Camp. My daughter Amelia, aged 17, cycled from Vietnam to Cambodia with me. Again, neither of us had experience in cycling big distances like this, but knew we were going to complete the challenge together. My youngest son, Ben, at the age of just 5, climbed Snowdon with me. And then when he was 6, not only did he climb it 5 times in 1 month, but 3 times in 1 week. My husband, who has been my rock since my diagnosis, managed to come to Everest Base Camp with me, along with our son and my sister. We'd been through so much together. It was so magical to be able to do the trip together. When we made it to Everest Base Camp, he gave me a huge surprise. Unknowingly to me, he had secretly smuggled a ring on the journey inside the sleeping bag of this charity bear, Hope Bear, that I'd been carrying on the whole of the journey. The ring had been handmade with 3 diamonds to symbolise our 3 children, separated by purple amethyst gemstone to symbolise healing and hope. And it also happens to be the colours of the AMF charity. It was a very emotional moment in my journey so far, and I'll never forget it. I'm so proud that my family have embraced the fundraising activities with me. It really has been a family affair. As a survivor, I've embraced my second chance at life. Although I may never know why I was dealt such a bad hand in being diagnosed with this rare and deadly cancer, I've realised that life doesn't have to be over following a cancer diagnosis. I have learned that every day is a gift and a blessing, and that pushing boundaries you never thought possible really can lead you onto something amazing in life, some adventures you might never have taken. To a patient that has just been diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, I would say the following 3 things. Number 1, question everything. Don't be afraid to challenge information. Secondly, if you're not happy, get a second or third opinion from a cholangiocarcinoma specialist. Time really is of the essence in those early days. And number 3, most importantly, never give up. There are some amazing forums out there with a wealth of experience on them, including the AMMF charity. The challenges faced when diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma here in the UK are still the overall lack of awareness and information about this cancer, especially from some of the well-known organisations and even the NHS website. Even now, when you Google the information on these sites about bile duct cancer, it's extremely limited, and it still says it's a disease mainly associated with people over the 65. We know that isn't true. That although these rarer cancers make up over 52% of all cancers, they are still not taken seriously against the more well-known cancers. There's no early way of detecting this cancer to allow for potential life-saving treatments. It never showed in my bloods from the outset, so it was really difficult to diagnose. It's exceedingly difficult to be referred to a cholangiocarcinoma specialist centre early enough to make a difference. With this lack of clear treatment pathways and the huge differences still in treatments across the country, it sometimes feels like you're in a postcode lottery on getting to be heard. My fears going forward are living with the real threat of reoccurrence and the limited options available to me if this happens. Also, the lack of a uniformed long-term surveillance plan for survivors like me, in comparison to other cancers like pancreatic cancer, where they screen for much longer, so being forgotten about until it's too late. My hopes are that all patients, given the devastating news they have cholangiocarcinoma, will be given access to specialist cholangiocarcinoma treatment centres, and that molecular profiling with more targeted therapies will be available to patients here, like it's starting to be in other countries. And finally, my biggest hope for the future is that I get to grow old with my husband, Chris, and watch our beautiful family, oh, they've just appeared, my beautiful family grow up and achieve their dreams. I would like to say thank you to all the amazing medical professionals and scientists at this conference for continuing to dedicate your time and efforts in finding advancements with the treatment of cholangiocarcinoma. I owe my life to the fantastic team of amazing surgeons and nurses involved in my care. But my final thanks goes to Helen Mormont, the AMMF CEO. You are a very special lady, and you should be immensely proud of what you've achieved for both the patients and family affected by this cancer. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about my own journey with cholangiocarcinoma, and that my story can give hope to others that are listening today and facing their own battle. I would like to leave you with a short video from my recent fundraising trip to Everest Base Camp. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
And I'd like to say, on behalf of all the families, to the AMF, the scientists, and the medical professionals out there, your dedication in fighting cholangiocarcinoma is making a difference to our families and giving us hope. Thank you.